I say hey to my third and fourth grade Virtual Academy learners. Hopefully everything's going good for you guys. Just hanging out in the art room, going to be working on part 2 of our 1-point perspective. And as I can see for many of you that this has not been the easiest thing to do. So I've got a little sheet over here that's going to kind of hopefully locate some problems that some of you may have had with your drawing, since this is not the easiest thing to do. So first off, this is part 2, like I said. This is all about coloring. So really the only thing that you're going to need for this project is, if you're all set to go, is you're going to need your project itself, part 1, and colored pencils. No markers, no crayons for this one. You want colored pencils. And the more colors you have, the more fun it's going to be. Right here, this is what I want to talk about first. It's a review. I have some problems on this sheet, and I'm going to hope to spot these out for you guys. And maybe if you see something that did not go well on your project, that you can fix it. Now, I have a 4th grader, Miss Brooklyn. Thank you, Miss Brooklyn. She was one that admitted in her part 1 that it did not look as good as she wanted. She went back and fixed it and redid it, and it actually looks better than the first one she did. The first one she did looked fine. There was nothing majorly wrong about it, but she noticed a few lines weren't going where they needed to go. She improved it, and it looks way better now than what her first one did. Now, it takes a lot of courage for a kid to admit that they're wrong. I understand that. Even as an adult, sometimes that's tough. It takes a lot of courage to admit that you made a mistake or that you're wrong, but it actually takes even more courage to say, you know what, I'm going to fix it and do a better job. And she did that. Not a lot of kids are going to do that. So I applaud you, Miss Brooklyn, and anybody else who just said, you know what, this looks a little off, I'm going to redo it, or you see that there's something wrong. So let's transition to this. Now, I have 4 major problems in this. I have freehand drawn lines, freehand lines that were drawn, drawing through the shape itself, missing a line from corners, and lines not getting to the center point. So I'm going to move this to the side. First issue, freehand lines that are drawn in. And that's what I have right here. I have this line that kind of goes straight and then it curves. Then I have a line that's kind of off and then curves. This just proves to me that you did not use a ruler or straight edge. 1-point perspective, accuracy is the most important thing. You need a guide. I cannot freehand draw this, and I know that you can't either. Use a ruler as a helper or something with a straight edge, a book, a folder, a notebook, something. Do not freehand draw any of this. The only thing that should be freehand drawn were the designs in the tops of the shapes. So freehand drawn in lines, no good. Drawing through the shapes. Some of you did that. Maybe by accident, but you're not supposed to be putting lines through these shapes at all. And that's what I have right here. I have it from the corner, it's supposed to be going to the center, all right? And then I draw through the shape. I draw through the shape. That's a no-no. This line is supposed to go to the shape and stop. From the corner, touches the shape, stop. Do not continue to go through all the shapes. If you did that, you need to erase that. If you did it in Sharpie, I'm sorry. Your drawing is going to look quite a bit off now. This is where you got to make that choice of, I know what I'm doing, I can redo it to make it look better. Missing a line from a corner of a shape. Okay, I have that in a couple of spots here. One of them is this shape right here. I have 1, 2, 3 corners that are actually available to be drawn here. Some of you only chose 2. You have a 3rd corner over here. This spot is supposed to go back there. That way you have 2 sides of this rectangle showing. I can't draw from that corner through because I'm not allowed to draw through the shapes. So some of you are missing lines from the 2nd or 3rd corner that's supposed to go back there. And then the last issue that I saw with some of our drawings were lines are not going to the center point. That first step, the dot in the middle, is your vanishing point. All of these corner lines, all of them, every single one should be going back to that one single dot. And as you can see here, here's a corner of my shape. That's not the dot. That's the vanishing point. That's the center point. That corner is supposed to be going here. This corner is supposed to be going here. Not anywhere else. Some of you guys have lines going all over the place. Some here, some there, some here, some there. Every line is supposed to be tunneled going back to that one single dot in the center. Please make sure that they do. Otherwise, you're not getting 1 point perspective. Every time you have a line that's going back to another spot, here or over here, each dot is a point of perspective. Now, instead of 1, you have 1, 2, 3, which completely throws your picture off. Some of you did this. You might want to make some changes. All right? So to fix that, watch the video. My video is the lesson. That's exactly what I would be teaching in the room. Make sure you watch it, pause it and play it, stop and start it when you need to, but follow along. The reason why many of you are so off on this is because you're not watching the video and you're only relying on the pictures that I'm putting in the document. Don't. Those pictures are just a guide so you can look at it. It's not the full step-by-step like I'm showing here. So do not freehand draw lines. Do not draw lines through shapes. Make sure that all corners that you can see that should be drawn from the corner to the point, draw it in there. And lastly, all lines should be going back to that center point. That's how it's done. So if you need to fix it before you do part 2. All right? So I'm going to set this to the side and we're going to talk about color. So here's my one that I made. This is a different one. This is a little bit simpler because I don't have too many shapes that are going back with sides. Like this right here, you can see 1, 2 sides of this shape. This one over here, you can only see one side. This shape over here, you can only see one side. This shape, you can see 1 and 2 sides. All right, so let's get started with this. So you're going to need colored pencils. The more colors, the better. I also say that if you want, get a piece of scrap paper so you can test out how to do this. So you can see what colors go work well together. Because each shape is going to need 2 colors. And you want to use different colors as much as you possibly can. All right, so I'm going to start with... let's start with this shape right here. Many of you might have something like this where you have 2 sides shown. So I'm going to snag 2 colors. They can be similar or they can be different. But I did notice on my finished project that some color combinations do not look good together for some reason. This is where I wish I had a scrap piece of paper. I should have tested them out first, but I gave it a go and I have to deal with my results. So I'm going to pick out a couple colors here. Let's see. Orange tends to be a good popular one. I'm going to take orange. And then I'm going to pull out, let's see, is there another? I'm going to pull out raspberry. So I have 2 colors that are quite a bit different, and I'm going to go with that. Okay? The next thing that we want to talk about is value. We've already talked about value. Value is a change in color from very dark to very light, or from very light to very dark. And that's what's going to be going in the sides of this. You are not coloring the top. You are not coloring in the empty space. Okay? You're going to see it on my final, what it's going to look like. So, I'm going to start by coloring in this side right here. I'm going to start one end with orange, and very dark, intense orange. And then I'm going to get lighter and lighter and lighter until it's nothing. It's white. So I am not going to put orange all the way to the edge of this. I'm going to stop my orange a bit short, about right here. But it's going to be very dark and intense, then get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, and then nothing. So I'm going to have some white space here. Then I'm going to do the opposite with my raspberry. Super dark here, but then as I go down the shape towards the center, it's going to go dark, then lighter, then lighter, then lighter, then nothing. Okay? So I'm going to pick these 2 colors. Now, if you don't have a lot of colored pencils, you might want to use these same colors again in different things or with different combinations, and I'm okay with that. Just mix it up, though. I'm not going to use orange and raspberry for every single one. That is the most boring thing you can do. Mix and match your colors as much as you possibly can. All right, so here I go. So I'm going to have orange. I'm going to kind of plan it out where I want to stop a little bit short. So I'm going to start right down here. Very intense orange. Okay, I'm sorry if the camera's wobbling. I'm pressing down quite hard. Now, as I'm going up, I'm going to start getting lighter and lighter. Now, you guys have practiced this. This is where this value comes in. Lighter and lighter. Now, I'm intentionally barely even touching the paper to the point where you can barely see it anymore. Okay? Fill in any gaps if you need to. Very dark, very light, nothing. Now I'm going to do the opposite here. I'm going to take my raspberry. I started with orange there. Your second color starts at the shape. So again, apologize again if the camera's wobbly. I got it on actually on a little arm that's attached to a table. Very dark and intense. Okay, then as I go down towards the orange, I'm going to get lighter and lighter. And then the colors are going to blend where we're coloring on top of each other. And they're going to almost make like a new color. And I want to stop my raspberry somewhere right around here. So I'm going very, very, very light until I barely even see it. Now you can see where I stop and start a bit. You can see like these lines there. That's not a big deal. Now for me, I would go back in and I would try to fill those in a little bit. But here, you have a value blend. You're using two colors. You're using value, and they are being combined in a certain area on the project. You are doing some quite advanced coloring with this. This is a cool technique. But again, some color combinations don't work very well. So you have to make sure that what you choose is right and something that you like. So this is where having a scrap piece of paper to kind of test out to see which colors look well when you combine them on top of each other is very helpful. Okay? I like this. This actually looks good with the raspberry and orange. Now I've got this other side though, right here. It's the other side of my square. It goes back here. So it's the same thing. Intense orange. I want to make sure I don't color in this shape. Intense orange, then get lighter, lighter, lighter until it stops. Now this is quite skinny, so I don't have a lot to color in there. Okay, take my raspberry, same thing, intense raspberry color on the end. And then as I go down the orange, I'm going to start to get lighter and lighter and lighter until it fades to nothing. I do not want any of my raspberry touching the very dark, intense orange. And likewise, I didn't want any orange to be touching the dark, intense raspberry. Okay, so there's one right there. That shape is done. That one is done. Congratulations. There's one down and however many shapes that you have left to go. All right, so I'm going to do one more color combination here for one of these. I'm going to do this shape here in the corner because look at, there is a huge stretch of one side of the shape, but very small on the other. I'm going to show you what to do in case if you do that. So I'm going to swap up my colors here. I am going to take, let's see, I'm going to take purple, violet purple, and then I'm going to mix it and blend it with a sky blue. There we go. I'm going to start now with the purple. I'm going to not worry about this side yet. Leave it alone. Just work on this side. Purple, dark and intense here at the bottom, towards the point. Then as I go up, it's going to get lighter and lighter. Again, don't put color right to the end. Stop. Because remember, I need intense sky blue right there. So I'm going to make sure I stop earlier. Okay, now I'm just coloring back in where I feel like I could do a better job making it darker, which is right there. Okay, again, don't put purple, don't put your color right to the end. Set this down. Now I have the intense blue. Sky blue. And none of this scribbly color either. You have this entire side to color in. Don't scribble color and leave white showing in this shape. No. Don't do that. We're better than that. Some of you scribble color just to get done. And you know what? That is not a good look to do. It's not a good habit to get into if you like art and things like that and to be creative. Don't do anything with half effort. You go all out all the time. That way you have no excuses that, oh, it didn't turn out like I did. Well, what caused that? If you wanted it to turn out well, did you put your full effort into it or did you just kind of not care? Well, then you can't complain if something didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to. All right, put full effort in and do your best. I don't know anybody who gets up in the morning and says, you know what, I'm just going to give half effort today. Nuh-uh. Nope. Roll out of that bed and say, it's going to be a great day. Let's do this. Do your best. I like that blue and that purple combination. Now we have a problem, though. This is really long while this is very short. The shorter the space that you have to color in, the shorter the change of dark to light that you have. So watch this. I'm going to bring this down a little bit and center it more. Now, I had my dark purple down here. Now, this isn't as much over there. So what I have to go do is I really have to start lightening up right now. Okay, really light. And then I just kind of carry over. There's this light value right there and kind of fill it in. So whatever value is stretched behind. Now look at, I'm not going to color this top of this box. That's a separate thing now. So I don't want color to get in there. I have to color around it. But small area, you need to have that value change very quickly. All right, so now here's the intense dark blue. Darken, not dark blue, but dark value. And now I'm going to start to make it lighter as I go down towards here. It's a little bit tricky in the smaller spaces. But if you think about it and plan ahead, you're going to be okay. There we go. 2 shapes done. I love that light blue and purple combination. That's really slick. Purple works well with a lot of colors. But notice that I started with purple towards the center and went that way. I didn't want to do purple and then light blue here and then flip-flop them there. If I did whatever scheme I did here, I want to do on the same sides of that with the raspberry orange, okay? And then you'd want to work on the other ones as well. But one thing you have to watch out for too is please make sure you know when these edges end, then not to accidentally color through any other shape, okay? Like this part right here, see this? That's part of this shape. That is not part of this one here. This one stops, so that color has to only remain right there, all right? Do not color the tops of your boxes, your squares and rectangles. Leave them empty. I want just to see the Sharpie. So here's my finished one. Ooh, Some colors don't work out as well. I chose a raspberry, I believe, with yellow. I don't like the way it mixed there. I used red, orange, and green. I don't like the way it mixed there. Gray with purple worked great. Pink with magenta worked great. Yellow with green worked great. So that's where having a spare piece of paper next to you might help out with this. But you can see the color blends. Intense green, then I lightened up. Intense yellow, then I lightened up. And in the middle, you get a brand new color mix of whatever 2 colors that you're working on. All right? So again, don't color the shapes. Don't color the background. I only want these sides right there. But the trick is to figure out, make sure you see the path of which side belongs to which shape. Get your colored pencils ready, and I think that you guys are going to knock this one out of the park. Okay? Take your time. Work on this one well. Again, if you see any one of these problems here, friends, feel free to start a brand new one. Go ahead. More experience, more practice is going to get you better. Especially if you see something way off, you can fix it and start a new one if you wish. But this is what we're working on for the week. I hope that you guys can pull this one off. I think that you guys can. Just do the best job that you can. Good luck, and I cannot wait to see what these look like in the end. All right? Have a great week, everybody.